Grab a stack of rock, Mike and the Meadow Man. Grab a stack of rock, hold on tight as hard as you can. Grab a stack of rock, Mike and the Meadow Man. Grab a stack of rock, hold on tight as hard as you can.
Johnny Metal, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
Gosh, I have so got to work on that.
If you want to send me an updated version, you go right ahead, man. Thanks for doing this. We have 6 people watching right now. We have Dan Chartrand in the house. I did post the link, Dan. I posted the link for your store on the Maiden debut episode, or the Maiden debut album episode. So hopefully I will sell a shirt for you. Anyway, thank you, Johnny. That was a great show, man. That was a great show.
That was a lot of fun. I couldn't remember half of what I said in that thing, but it was good to watch that again, and again, connect that love for that first album. You know, it was just really, really good stuff.
I was commenting along in the chat that my Tim Hortons cup was this green Christmas cup that they only had in like late November and December. For about 6 weeks total, and you can't get them ananymore. So it dates the episode. I think we recorded it on like the 27th of December or something.
Yeah, it's like right before the end of the year. Yeah, it was kind of late. But...
And because it was last year, it does feel like a lifetime ago in some ways. Boy. But even further back is the Martin Popoff episode, which is the very first one we recorded, which is not airing until next week. So it's been kind of fun to jump back and forth in time like this. And that's why Harrison is making comments like, I'd like to correct myself for next week's episode.
See, I couldn't do that with the Priest or the Accept series, just because I'd be like, nah, we just have to go one album at a time. And that just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we learned full disclosure here, and I only learned this part of the story last week, is that when you were doing your You're the Priest series with your co-captain and a variety of special guests, myself included, we were inspired by that, but specifically Harrison was inspired by that. He wanted to do Maiden, and he approached you first. But yeah, full disclosure, we totally copied Johnny Clauser's format, like track by track, exactly the same. And then his co-captain, John the Metal Nut, or the Music Nut, he would do the tour stuff that Harrison does. And it just so happens that Harrison's the live music guy, and he just fits that role perfectly. But I mean, this is cut and dried. This is a total carbon copy of your show. Hey, Ash, how are you doing today?
Hey, Ashley. Well, you know, it's funny when we were doing that, when I was watching this, and there's Grant. Yeah, we're going up against you, brother.
Oh shit, are we?
I don't know. He probably has something happening tonight, but anyway, no, you know, it made me think about, you know, talking about showing some stuff off that probably would have worked well from last week's show. So if I can quick indulge. I don't know if I showed this. I might not have told you about this stuff. Remember, I think Steve was also a part of a band called Gypsy's Kiss. This was
that rings a bell.
It was about the time of Smiler and stuff like that. So there was a guy named David Smith who was a part of this band and still is, and they did a couple different albums here that I haven't listened to these in a long time, but yeah, that was a little bit of the early Maiden tree. Although none of the guys in Gypsy's Kiss were in Maiden except for Steve going there. But I don't know. Did you guys, either you or Harrison, pick up on any of the Thunderstick stuff?
No, the only Thunderstick I have is via Samson.
Yeah. This was more of one of the later things that Barry Purkis had done, and anyway, and then I think I have shown this before. This is a Cart and Horses CD that they did in 2020 to kind of help raise funds during the pandemic. And all of the songs here feature some former member of Maiden. Like, there's you got Blaze and Barry and Thunderstick doing a track. You got Dave Smith from Gypsy's Kiss. You got Paul Mario Day doing something here. Terry Rance, Terry Wappram, Tony Moore, Tony Parsons, Doug Sampson, the Air Force Band. Let's see who else is on here. And then, of course, Paul Diano's got something on here. Ron Matthews and Terry Wappram do a song together. So that's kind of a cool little oddity compilation CD. Again, it's been a while since I've listened to it, so don't ask me what any of it sounds like. But it is good stuff. If you're really looking for any older Maiden and what some of those people are up to, that's kind of fun. Anyway, not to detract from what we were going to
No, but that's really interesting because last week we covered every single member that you just mentioned there. Paul Mario Day, we praised Paul Mario Day, great vocalist. We talked about Tony Moore. We talked about Terry Wappram. We talked about the other Tony. Can't remember
Tony
his
Parsons.
name. Tony Parsons. I praised his guitar solo on the BBC version of Sanctuary. So that's really cool, John. And thanks for watching, everybody, tonight. This is awesome. Anyway, the reason we're doing this is, first of all, I thought it'd be kind of fun just to kind of wrap up the show with a post-show chat. They do that with The Walking Dead. But second of all, it's been an interesting day here at Grab a Stack of Rock HQ. Those of you who follow me probably know that my grandmother turned 100 this year, 100 years old. And, when you turn 100, sometimes there are some health scares, and we're having one right now. She's back in the hospital right now, and I wasn't feeling too good this morning. And my good buddy Johnny Metal said, well, if you want to go live and have a chat tonight and take your mind off of things, and let's do this.
Sure.
So thank you, Johnny Metal.
Yeah,
we're gonna tell actually some grandma stories, because my grandma is hilarious, and she's got some music related stories that are pretty funny. But I also wanted to unbox something here, because you remember my good buddy Mike Slayan from San Diego, California.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I don't know. Oh, shit. And I also wanted to show this off. This is a Dennis Stratton project, but we'll show that off in a bit. Yeah. Anyway, thankfully, Mike Slayan is not in the path of any kind of fire or anything like that right now.
No.
But he is safe in San Diego, and he sent me something in the mail here, and I have no idea what it is, because I am forgetful. There's no denying I'm forgetful. But
it's probably a Padres t-shirt
in a package this small. I don't know. I don't even know what sport the Padres are. Is that baseball?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So there's a card. Okay, there's a CD and a card. Okay, so let's take a look at the card first, because that's what you do when you get a gift from somebody. So it's a nice bird, beautiful bird. I cannot identify the bird. I am not.
When the bird is a word.
I don't. Bird is a word. I have not read this ornithological piece. Okay, so inside he calls me Michael. I always find that funny. Bet you thought I forgot this. I forgot this. So. It took me forever to dig it out, and then the holidays came. Appreciate you, man. Mike, I have one left in a wrapper, so it's probably the last one ever to go out. By the way, my daughter painted this card. Oh, his daughter painted this card. Isn't that awesome? Okay, so
great talent.
Okay. So I remember this is one of Mike's albums, the Slayan and Fox guitar duo. Mike plays not just rock, he also plays a lot of classical guitar stuff. And I was absolutely a big fan of his album Dude, which I showed off when we did that show on Aussie. Mike was one of our guests, and I showed off his CD Dude. So this is the second last sealed copy in the world of the Slayan and Fox guitar duo, Reflections of San Diego. So that's cool.
Very nice.
It's kind of weird for me to know that, because it makes me not want to listen to it. Maybe Mike, maybe send me the file so I don't have to open it. so that was
see if
one
he's
thing
on Bandcamp.
See if he's on Bandcamp. So I'm not going to show off too much other stuff because Ash and I are hoping to do a live show in a few weeks with Peter Kerr where we're doing recent arrivals. So I don't want to show off too much in the way of recent arrivals tonight.
Right.
I hope we can do that show. Yes, this is an excellent version. It's called Rock Aid Armenia. It's not just Bruce Dickinson. It's got Tony Iommi, has Alex Lifeson, has Brian Adams, has Brian May, Paul Rogers, Keith Emerson, I think. It's an incredible version. Check out Rock. Oh, and Ian Gillan. He put the project together. So check out Rock Aid Armenia, Smoke on the Water. Came out, roughly around the same time as Tattooed Millionaire was out, came that album. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Dan. I want to tell a grandma story. So this is just an easy, quick one, but in the 90s, CDs were kind of new, and rather than buy a CD for me, didn't it just make sense for grandma to write me a check? And so, of course, she wrote me the check, and just like with this card from Mike Slayan, there was a nice note, and the note said, "Dear Michael, use this to buy one of your CD records."
I gotta love that.
Yeah.
Gotta love
So
that.
That's my grandma.
Yeah.
Gosh, she just says things that are she thinks I'm making fun of her, which I'm not really. I'm not making fun of her, but I have all these warm stories about her. And when it comes to music, it was always funny because she would give me gifts periodically just for no reason. I would just be given an album. The Blizzard of Oz. She gave me the Blizzard of Oz. I can't even imagine. I'm pretty sure she didn't pick that. I'm pretty sure that was somebody else that picked it. Probably my sister, who would have been shopping with her that day. But it's like, can you imagine my grandmother picking Ozzy Osbourne, The Blizzard of Oz, and giving it to me? It was like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem too likely. But that's how I got some of these albums.
Yeah,
because grandma would just buy me a random gift one day for no reason.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have a similar story like that. See, unfortunately with me, I only got to really know one grandparent. Unfortunately, my mother's mother passed away before my brother was even born back in 57. My father's father passed away in the mid 60s. My mother's father passed away when I was maybe 3 years old. 3-4 years old. So I probably have like two memories of him. And, but my father's mother was the only grandparent that I ever got to know, but she lost her sight in the mid 60s. So, I was I guess I was the grandchild that never got to be seen by the grandparents as so it were. But, but she would pass away, when I was in 8th grade. And she was about 89 years old at this point. So, but yeah, I can remember one day, it was for my birthday, I believe. And, my mom or somebody said, well, Grammy's got something for you. And this was like 1981. And I look and I open it up and there is, AC/DC's For Those About to Rock. And I'm like, I know my grandmother obviously did not get this because she was, she's blind, so can't even see it. But it was something that was acknowledged from her, so I certainly could appreciate that. But yeah, I never, thankfully, I never got to torture my grandmother with with any of my music, and stuff like that. But yeah, she was a very, very dear lady, and I wish I had gotten to know her much better than I did. But I always say for so many people, it's like I have a friend that's she's in her mid 40s and she's about to be a grandmother, and I'm like, that's blowing my mind because I knew this girl as a young child, and I'm like, people, young kids, you have no idea how much you get to appreciate your grandparents. Take advantage of it. But anyway,
You know what? Personal story here from just a few weeks ago. Grandparents are an incredible source of not just family history, but history in general. She told us a story maybe the second last time I went to see her in December. And, you and I, we love our technology. We thrive on media. And an essential part of most of us who consume media is a television. So my grandmother was there when the first TVs were hitting homes, of average families like ours back then in the day. And she told me that back then, this is new technology. People were so afraid of the effects of of watching TV, that the TV was in its own separate room. They had the TV like in the living room or something, and they would watch the TV from the kitchen through like the doorway. And my mom confirmed that. She's like, yeah, that's exactly what we did, because they were, you always were told as a kid, don't sit too close to the TV, which is probably good advice anyway. But literally back then, people were so afraid. They didn't know what these cathode ray tubes were doing to their eyes and their bodies and their brains, that they literally watched it from a separate room, not in the back of the room, not from across the room, from another room. And that's valuable history to guys like you and me who love media and the history of media. I mean, you and I grew up on those big fat cathode ray tubes. Today, you and I, we are communicating through some kind of 4K digital screen that I can't describe. But back then, it was a glass, you could knock it with your fingers, glass tube. Completely different from today. And that's something that a grandparent...
And you had to get up and change that channel. No remote controls.
You know what, Johnny? We had not a remote control, but we had like a box that was wired to the TV.
Well, so eventually you got those.
That's most of what I remember. I remember very little of getting up to turn the channel, but I do remember.
I do.
You do, eh? Okay. Well, you are just a couple of years older than me, but
just a couple.
I remember when we got our first gaming system, the Atari 2600, and it was like this entire process of playing games. You had to like disconnect the antenna and reconnect this, and then flick this switch, and then plug that in. But I'm trying to think of another grandma. Oh, this is a recent one. Do you remember? We were visiting her at her house one day, and she said, "Did you hear about that Michael Bublé?" And I said, "No. What about Michael Bublé? There's something wrong with his face." What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Bublé face? Oh, and I just remembered it was Justin Bieber. And he had like that weird paralysis thing where half of his face got paralyzed. You remember that from a few years ago? I think he's fully recovered now.
The Bell's palsy, I think it was.
Which my dad had Bell's palsy as a kid. But funny enough, my grandma thought that he was Michael Bublé, but it was just also so funny the way there's something wrong with his face. Back in the year, I think it was 1998. I'm going to say it was either end of 98 or early 99. My aunt from Calgary was visiting. Calgary's on the whole other side of the country, so kind of a big deal when she comes to visit, maybe only once every year, every couple of years. And for whatever reason, we decided to go out as a family and go to the movies that afternoon. And there was this brand new Cineplex. It was like 10 screens. Awesome. Like the first time that we had something this luxurious in town. So, my aunt and my grandma went to go see one film while the rest of us went to go see Star Trek Insurrection in the other theater. And when we got out of the theater, we asked my grandma, what did you see and did you like it? She, "Oh, it was a lovely film. It was called There's Mail Waiting for You."
Oh boy.
And then a year or two later, she was watching movies on TV, and she said to me, "Oh, Michael, I saw this movie. It had the best songs. It was called Brother, Can You Spare a Dime?"
Oh gosh. Oh boy.
And you know immediately which movies I'm talking about. You've Got Mail and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? But that's just
well,
and I love that.
Well, you've got mail is that was a very special one from both my wife and I. Oh, there's Lair the Alchemist
Yeah,
talking there. There you go.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. You've got mail is one of those ones that was a very special thing because we met online. You know, that's our story is that we met online and we met through an AOL chat room of all things. And so, yeah. So yeah, that movie has a very special. I don't think either of us have watched that movie in a very long time though. But it rang a nice thing for us. So yeah,
So
nice
Johnny,
sentimental thing.
I'm gonna tell you my You've Got Mail story because Jen and I met. Remember MySpace?
Mm-hmm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I loved my old MySpace site.
I did too.
Can't access it or can't do anything with it
Yeah.
anymore. But yeah,
Ours are gone, but that's how we
Yeah.
met. And what you said about the oh shit, what did you just say that was funny?
AOL chat
Oh,
room.
it just the way. Well, for you it was the AOL chat room. For us, it was MySpace. I can't remember where I was going with that, but I'll just cut to the chase. When Jen and I first exchanged email addresses, hers, I'm not going to say the address, but it had something to do with her hockey team. Okay. It had the name of her hockey team in her email address. And she uses that to this day as leverage whenever I protest that we're watching sports on TV all the time. There's Leaf games on 4 nights a week sometimes, 3-4 nights a week sometimes, or hockey anyway. And she always says, you knew what you were getting into because of my email address. And I'm like, I didn't know you were a freaking lunatic. Your email address didn't say, I am a freaking lunatic who has to watch every second of every game, pregame, practice, talk show, commercial.
Yep.
But apparently I knew what I was getting into. So that's my You've Got Mail stories when we first exchanged email addresses after becoming acquainted, because that's like the next step, right? You get acquainted wherever you met online, you get acquainted, and then here's my email address. And it's kind of like,
Yep. Yeah.
But
I think with us, it was like, we were IMing each other and I think eventually we just, we did the email thing, of course. And then I think the way I eventually gave her my phone number through the thing was I got kind of creative. And so, and I did something really strange to give her my phone number and stuff like that. But, so yeah, yeah, those early days. Yeah. The fond memories they bring.
I want to tell you something else about my grandma, because this is probably of all my memories, this might be the most important one. My parents will admit this, but when they first met Jen, they didn't like her. They love her now, but they didn't like her when they first met her. And it might have had something to do with she was smoking cigarettes. That might have had something to do with it. For whatever reason, which they've never told me, and I don't care anymore, they didn't like her. But my grandma was the one person in the world that I could talk to about it, because she liked Jen. She saw the real Jen past the cigarettes. My grandma used to smoke, so did my mom. It's weird seeing pictures of my grandma with a cigarette in her hands. It's really weird. But that is probably, I remember phoning my grandma from work one day. I was temping at United Rentals. It was the year after I quit the record store. I quit the record store, quite frankly. I don't know if I would have had the courage to do it if I wasn't with Jen at that time. Yeah. She kind of gave me that courage that I could quit and I could find something better. But I introduced, there's a whole story about how I introduced her to my family at Thanksgiving. I completely blindsided her, but that's a whole other story. It's a great story, by the way. But my parents didn't like her, and my grandma did. And I phoned her from work one day at United Rentals, and I was just like, Grandma, I don't know what to do. Like, my parents don't like her, and I think you do. She's like, oh yeah, I like her very much, blah, blah, blah. So I'll never forget that my grandma did that for me. And even though that's cool. A more recent memory than the childhood ones, that's probably, at the end of the day, when all's said and done, that was probably the most important one, that she had my back. And proof in the pudding is Jen and I are going to be celebrating 20 years together this September.
And that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. My parents fell in love with my wife like pretty much instantly. So yeah, there was never a doubt there. And my mom, well, obviously my dad did too. But yeah, my mom still to this day is like, oh, you have no idea what kind of a godsend you have, and an angel you have in her. So cherish cherish those. So so it's sad that I don't have these kind of memories about my own. Like I said, the one grandparent that I did have. The only other story that I can really remember about my grandmother was she would always tell this story of back in the day. She used to work in a meat packing plant. Now, please forgive me for anybody who's Polish, because I'm gonna say something here. But she said she would always joke about how she said you always, when you got these big slabs of meat in or whatever, and the fresh kills or whatever, that you always had to keep the Polacks away from when they would cut them open, because they would cut it out to drain the blood. Well, they'd grab these cups and they'd like put the cup of the cup under the thing, and they, they would drink the blood back. I was just like, but that was what the 20s, 30s, or whatever time period this was. I mean, that's just what they did. But yeah, that was just. But to this day, I still will never forget hearing these stories. That's a story like that. I'm like, oh gosh, But
that is absolutely wild, man. And again, this is why we value our elders. This is why
yes,
we hope we will be valued by our youth, in the future.
Yes.
We're getting close to the 8:30 point, so I'm going to get close to wrapping up here.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks again, Johnny, for joining me tonight. Obviously, I needed to tell some grandma stories tonight. She is in the hospital right now, and news is slow to come, so we hope for improvement tomorrow. My mom seems optimistic that she'll regain her strength. I'll just show off this Lionheart CD real quick, because I forgot to earlier. This contains a song called Die for Love, of which there's a hilarious music video. You got to check it out. But this features Dennis Stratton from that first Iron Maiden lineup or album lineup. And I'll find the picture of Dennis there.
They also do a really interesting version of Mary Did You Know? Oh yeah, there he is.
Is that on this CD? I don't think it's.
I don't know if it's on that CD. I think they may have just done it as a standalone single.
Produced by Kevin Beamish. This also has Rocky Newton, who was later in MSG.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you the lineup here. Lead vocals, Chad Brown. Then we have Dennis Stratton on guitar, Steve Mann on guitar, Rocky Newton on bass, and drums on all tracks is Bob Jenkins. There you go.
I want to say Steve Mann had something to do with MSG for a little while too.
Oh, like you're probably right.
The Macaulay Schenker. I don't hold me to that. I want to say that's a possibility, but I'd have to look that up.
There we go. Actually, wrap the dog up. I wonder if that is an Australian phrase. Ash, I do want to do that new Arrival show with you and Peter Kerr. I will be talking to you about that soon. That is why you're not seeing anything else that has recently arrived at the show. But there's one more thing that I will show, because I think it's kind of cool. I'm not really familiar with this artist, Pharrell Williams.
I've heard the name.
I'm sure somebody in the audience will know his hit song. I know he has one.
Yeah,
but
I can't think of what it is.
Space Lego. He does. He's like a co-designer on this space Lego, and I love the Lego space line. I love spaceships. I love spaceships made of Lego. I mean, I have since I was a kid. Little Lego Pharrell right there.
Yeah.
There's the front of the box. I think what I showed you earlier was the back, but there's the front of the box, and there's Pharrell again. I'm looking forward to playing with that tomorrow. As for tomorrow, I'm going to be on Sea of Tranquility. Nerves.
That's a big deal.
Sea of Tranquility tomorrow night at 8:00 p.m. I believe the episode airs. We're taping tomorrow morning. And
very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. I always like to go out in a song. And since we opened with an acoustic number by Johnny Clouser, we're going to go out on an acoustic number by Paul McLeod, Down in the Streets. one of my favorite songs. But before we go, Johnny, what do you have coming up on your music corner of the world?
Well, right now the only thing I've got is Mortification Monday.
Okay.
And then this is going to be the next episode of this album here called Triumph of Mercy. I've got some major research to do for this one because of what happens with the founder of the band. And then let's see, I just did album track ranking A to Z. I just did Kiss's Dressed to Kill. Had to talk about that. And so next week will be brought to you by the letter L. So I'll let that be a surprise until we get to that. But I think
L stands for let that be a surprise.
That's right. That's right. Other than that, gosh, I mean, I just did something with Grant this week. The one and done with Vi, Sex and Religion.
Man,
I think we're going to do something. I think we're doing something with him next week on some more Vi stuff. I'll be recording something with Rock Daydream Nation. First time I've been on that channel since May of last year.
Excellent.
But boy, after that, I think just like maybe some other little bits and pieces, but all is very quiet on my music corner. I've been kind of regrouping since the beginning of the year when John the Music Nut and I ceased with the Accept series, and he wanted to do his thing, and which is a fabulous channel. Please go check it out. He's talking about Chris Whitley now, so that'll be a great series. So I got to give my man a big plug there. So that's pretty much all I got going on in my music corner right now.
And speaking of that episode of Rock Daydream Nation, I believe you and I will be recording with Peter tomorrow in the same episode. As for me, we have Grab a Stack of Rock next week with 50 Years of Iron Maiden, episode 3. This time we're doing Killers with Martin Popoff, so do not miss this episode because, like I said in the comments earlier, every guest brings their own unique value to the episodes. Let's face it, folks. Martin Popoff talking about Killers. This is the man who's written a number of books about Iron Maiden, and he will be talking about his brand new book coming out April 28th. It's called Hallowed by Their Name, the Unofficial Iron Maiden Bible, and he will be talking about that on next week's show. So tune in then to Grab Stack of Rock. Johnny, thanks a lot, man, and I will talk to you on the flip side. This is Paul McLeod with Down in the Streets. Take care, everyone. Thank you for watching.
On bright corners, baby, she's been gone, and I can't do but wrong to my baby. Don't cry for me as I tear out my own. This misery is my